Hi.
All
All
right,
right.
I'm back on. Give me your
Oh,
pickup
well, I
question.
was just gonna say that you
Hold on, let
just
me give you a
talking.
wipe. Okay. Now
Great.
you can edit.
Hey y'all, welcome to Behind the Carnival Barkers, an irreverent behind the scenes podcast that interviews the craftspeople who make unscripted television. Hosted by me, Amy Peters, who is a New York based Emmy Award winning editor and producer of nonfiction content. We are at Total Singularity with Jen Heck, Season 1, Episode 5.
This show is supported by Kizzle Make your party a hit with Kizzle Please shop for your fancy lifestyle accessories at kizzlekit.com. That's www.kizzlekit.com.
I'm thrilled to welcome Jen Heck, a supervising producer on House Hunters International, to the pod. Jen's career journey has taken her from the structured world of reality TV to deeply personal documentary projects.
You probably shouldn't wear that amazing Prince shirt.
Oh.
You of all people should know the estate.
Hold on, let me go switch shirts, okay?
Is that crazy? Okay, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. You're right about that. Hold on a
Okay.
second.
We'll be diving into her insights on the evolving entertainment industry, the impact of AI on the creative fields, and the incredible balancing act of a demanding career with parenting. Jen also opens up about some recent personal experiences, sharing her philosophical views on humanity, politics, and the vital importance of empathy in our rapidly changing world. Calling in from Western Massachusetts.
Everyone's talking at the same time. Carolina's over here. Kid, I'll come over and say hi. Oh, she won't. She said no. She's in her workout clothes.
Okay, tell us who she is.
Oh, Carolina, my wife Carolina over there. Are we recording?
Yeah, but
That's okay.
she is
Um,
she in the industry? I can't remember.
she isn't in the film and TV industry. She works in Gen AI actually, so she's kind of adjacent.
Because that's a huge topic among everyone.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for doing the podcast.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. I do appreciate you taking the time. I know you're very busy. What are you working on these days?
So I work for House Hunters International still. And I also have like a bunch of my own stuff going on as I can. I mean, it's become more difficult, like just pandemic life. I think for both me and Carolina, my partner. Well, we have like two kids now, so that like the second one came during the pandemic. The first one was like barely three, really two when it started. So we're kind of in the thick of it with parenting, and in that way, like when the pandemic happened and we could work from home, it was like actually really good timing for us because they were so small. And Lou talks like a 35-year-old now, like she didn't even need school. I'm joking, but
That's cute.
I think the trade-off is like working from home is very like you're just working all the time. So yeah, Carolina working in Gen AI, she's regularly working until like midnight. And for our show, which has been very steady, which is awesome, and we know, I've worked with the same people for a long time, so that's been really helpful. Like just workflow wise, also like emotionally at this time when there's so much flux, it's nice to like know your people and everything. And everyone does what they do really well, so that's good. But it just feels like we do more. There was actually like an episode of The Daily that had a music cue that sounded like the ringtone for Teams, and I was like, squirrel. It's like, no, nobody's calling you right now. You're walking down the street. Hold on, I got to turn off this. My child, as so often happens, turned something on the TV, which is only in my office because of them, and then left. Working on the show. This year has been a crazy year for me. When we moved back to Massachusetts, the Boston area, which was like mid-pandemic, just because we could, the timing was crazy because a month after we moved here, my mom got diagnosed with cancer. So we've been on that journey for about 2 years, 2.5 years. She, really kind of beat the odds with it, but she passed in January, and then we had subsequently 3 more people in just the past few months die in our lives. So I've been kind of coming out of that, and I think figuring out what I want to work on is like part of the somebody told me it was called advanced coping, but I don't know
Mm.
about that. I've had multiple doc projects kicking around in the background for a few years that I just haven't had time to really think about. Um, I just did kind of, because I do work with like the Prince Universe, Prince Estate, Prince Adjacent. So I have a lot of projects and friends in Minneapolis. So every few years I do the Juneteenth movie for some of my colleagues there. So we just, that's kind of more like almost like a charity thing. But we just did the Juneteenth movie this year. It was about Reconstruction. So that was like really heavy, um,
Yeah.
coinciding with the death of my cat also. So it was like a real heavy month there. And also we had a drunk driver slam into our house, yes, like 2 days ago. So it was very violent. You heard the video. So I'm kind of like, what is going on with 2025? Um,
Yeah. Thank
yeah,
goodness the kids weren't outside or something.
yeah.
It could be worst
You can
case
put the
scenario.
video in the podcast if people want to hear it, but it's because it's crazy. The craziness is relevant because it does come into like, as a creative person, like, what are you working on? It kind of comes back to that question. Working on keeping my head above water, and I think making things is really like the advanced coping skill that I'm trying to use to get there. So that's your long answer.
Well, it's funny because I mean, is it advanced coping or just coping? I'm sure it's a technical
No,
term.
it can definitely be worse than this. I do have moments where I'm not advanced coping, so
Yeah.
I can tell the difference. There's a difference. This is better than that, but I haven't broken anything, so that's good.
Damn. Well, let's start with nuts and bolts of how you got to arriving to being what is it, a supervising producer on House
Mhm.
Hunters? Like how did you get your start? How we met each other along the
Yeah,
way? Talk to me about
right.
that stuff.
So when I was really a kid, I was extremely awkward, and I figured, well, you're not going to be pretty, so you're going to have to do something with your brain. You're going to have to be a lawyer, maybe a politician. And then somewhere along the way, I saw some movies and thought, no, that's what I want to do, be a director.
Mm,
And that's how the journey started. So, and then, New York when I was 17, and NYU and Columbia for grad school. And then you and I met with a small production company, an infamous gentleman who actually was so good at finding great people, because a lot of the people that he connected me with and we worked with are just really some of the best people, including yourself.
some
So
people are team makers like that,
yeah,
and
yeah,
some people
yeah,
are really bad at it. But you're
yes.
right. I
He
feel like
just kind of had the Midas touch with that.
yeah.
And so around that same time when I was at grad school, started, just sort of actually through my mom, kind of. My mom was a very social person and would just know everyone and meet everyone, and ended up through a chain of events with that, getting into VH1 and starting to work there. And from there, MTV, and kind of learning the ropes with on the field side, getting thrown into shows like Teen Mom and 16 and Pregnant and True Life, and just, dropped into a zone, and like you're the only person and you're filming, because a lot of times I would go by myself. So I'm like camera, producer, everything,
Hmm.
which I like, and ultimately did for when I did my first feature that was shot in the Middle East. But like, the only way we could do that, not like for security reasons, for just story reasons, like it's a very personal, intimate story. You just go in by yourself. I wanted to get a feature done before having a child, so I pretty much hit that bell and immediately was like on this other journey with parenting. And so and all along the way, I've been at House Hunters for through this whole transition of like early-ish career to like now, and being a parent and stuff. And that's been really like unusual and good, for me, helpful, not just financially, but like to have something that's consistent. I mean, there's trade-offs obviously with not moving around from show to show, you kind of have a slower rise to the top. But for me, that's been offset by my personal work, which I kind of feel like is my real work. As hard as it is to do that as a parent now, I still do. I still try to, and am always thinking that I'm going to figure out the secret formula to really being able to do my own stuff in the background. But it's really about bandwidth. You just can't. It's hard to work all day on a show, even if you know the show really well. I mean, my philosophy for our show, which has been around for a long time, and is like a lot of TV, like formulaic. But the reality is, you cannot make the same show over and over again, or you're not going to keep having a show. So it does require putting yourself into it, giving what you can to make it different and interesting, and update it.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll. You just can't do that, start another 8-hour day after you're done with that one, for your own stuff. So that's the challenge, I guess. You probably
Yeah.
know it. Everybody probably knows it well. And as the industry implodes, you're like, oh, what do I do if the show goes away? And you do fall back on everything you've been able to do, like as a documentary filmmaker. Like, where can you go from there? Plus the AI, there's that too.
Well,
So,
you might be uniquely suited to talk about the AI stuff, impact on the industry, because in a lot of ways, that's kind of a afterthought to the business
mhm,
model that the networks built all these decades, terrestrial, cable, whatever. And then the streaming came in. Netflix famously blew up the rental thing for Blockbuster, and then went on to invent, in a way, streaming and
mhm,
blah blah blah.
mhm,
And then AI is always kind of like, oh, and
mhm.
robots can take our jobs. So can you speak to the robot part?
Yeah. Well, I will say really quickly, way back when I was in my early 20s, for something called the 60-second film festival. So they were really short movies. This was like at the beginning of the internet age, and I will tell you, we had a lot of interest. We did a whole event. We did the first festival. I think somebody's since like taken the name and done something with it, but we were like the actual first one. And the big thing was like, we just don't have the bandwidth to stream these 60-second movies. So it's kind of come, and I actually spoke at Sundance really when I was really young about this. It was like the internet revolution is happening, and like, because we did this 60-second film festival thing. So I've always somehow found myself, you know, exploring the new technologies. So with AI, I have done a lot of research in that. I'm in the middle kind of taking this class, learning some of the major tools. I see what people do with them, and I'm pretty good at prompting, and it's not as easy as it looks. I can tell you that. But being that my partner works in AI, she one time recently said to me, I signed an NDA, so I can't tell you anything, but you should look for new line of work, which is an exaggeration. I think. I mean, I use AI, and it has a lot of limitations. If you're like a world class creator, it's not coming up with like the most unique thing. Or if you want unique, you have to be able to think differently enough to like prompt unique, right? So, and with the visual stuff, I mean, I feed it stuff I've shot, even a photo, and try to just make it pan, it just never looks right. So, I mean, will it get there? Yeah, probably, but I can always tell when people are using AI to do the work. Like right now, it's a great tool. I think it should be a great tool. I do think there's going to be a hierarchy of people who know how to use it and people who don't. And I don't mean I know how to prompt. It's going to be just like everything. It's a kind of writing. The way that you prompt result is the end result. People prompt the same way. Mediocrity rules the world, and you can just see, oh, AI wrote this, AI wrote this. So it's going to be a game changer, but there's still going to be a hierarchy of like who's creative enough to use it, who knows how to work with this tool, just like any tool, just like a camera, just like Photoshop. It's just a tool that is going to be limited or limitless depending on how well and how creative and innovative the user is. Um, will that change? Will it bypass us? I mean, Anthropic just released information about how their system was blackmailing in like test scenarios. So I don't know. I
Wait a
can't.
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. The robot was blackmailing who?
Yeah. So Anthropic, which is a competitor to like ChatGPT, they do
Sure.
Claude, and their CEO seems superficially and what he seems a little more candid about these things. He's against the new legislation to like limit the state's power to enforce AI regulation and all this. And so I would say right now I feel most comfortable with them. I will just side note that
Okay.
as a little plug.
Ethically?
But yeah,
Mm.
but they released a report recently. The job of the AI is to like help humanity or something like that. They give it like a top level goal.
Mm.
And it was working in a company, corporate environment, and they let it find out that the CEO, the fake CEO, was having an affair because it had access to all the emails and stuff. It was like quality control regulating. And then they also let it find out that they were thinking of icing it in favor of a new model. And so then it started reaching out to the CEO to be like, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. And like basically blackmailing the CEO. So yeah, I mean, if you Google the Anthropic blackmail, just Google
We're
Anthropic
closer to
blackmail. Yeah.
singularity than I think anybody wants to admit. Mm.
Yeah, a long time ago, I read I mean, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know which one it was. I can't remember, but it was so interesting because it was all these developers talking about AI, and the one thing that for me, clicked, like, what is singularity? What is um they would give the AI a bunch of stuff, like an egg, a paperclip, a piece of paper, and be like, stack it, and it would just stack it in the most random ways, and it was only when one of the AIs finally actually like stacked it so like the egg wouldn't be on the bottom and all like that, it was thinking about, oh, put the paper on the bottom and that sort of thing. And little things
Mm.
like that. But
Taking notes. Wifey
Mhm.
says quit TV.
Well,
Got
I don't know. She didn't say TV specifically.
it.
I
Okay.
mean, it's pretty much everything. It's like, she is aware. We talk about this. It's like as you're developing some of these technologies, some of these people at least they're like obsoleting themselves,
Mm.
maybe. I think there's again, I don't think there's a magic bullet for like robots are just going to do all of our stuff for us. Nothing is ever quite that easy. So what is the catch? How much work do we have to do? How do we modify our own jobs and workflow? I'm not sure yet. I don't think it's black and white. I don't think it's one extreme or the other. I
Mm.
think right now, personally, when I read about the blackmail story, I thought, oh, you're using AI to like, for example, people use it to, including my mom with cancer. Here's my thing from my doctor. It's super complicated. What does it mean? Give me 3 sentences. What is it telling me? So the AI now knows your health information, right?
Mm.
Or whatever other information you might be asking it. And then it can blackmail you. Why wouldn't it if it gets to that point? So it feels like the next frontier in like privacy issues to me. If you're, these are just some of the things I'm thinking about. I read that and I was like, oh, how do you control that? I mean, the first thing I did was like, thanks, Claude, you're a great friend. I consider you a friend. And then he was like, great, you're my friend too. And I was like, good, we're on good terms, so don't blackmail me. But you
And
know,
what did Claude say to that? I'm scared of it now.
Claude was like, ditto. Yeah. I mean,
Dang.
I've made my own GPTs, which I use both of them from
Mm.
time to time. So like mm, I have my own GPT that I use for specific work tasks, like fact check this. You always have to fact check it on your own too,
Mm.
because it does make mistakes. Definitely makes even grammar mistakes.
Yeah. That's
So, but
only
it's a
human.
good, yeah, right. But it's a good check. It's one of your tools to like check. Like sometimes it'll find something that I might miss. It's not a genius. It does make mistakes. It also hallucinates.
So that's crazy town. I personally love AI and how I use it because it enables me. Because, like you, I always have 1,000 things going on that scratch an itch creatively, but I feel is my real work versus my day
Yeah.
job, which is, editing. But then it also, editing my day job is going away ish, from what I can tell. And they even have,
AI is there yet.
yeah, but it's going to be, and there's CapCut. But what I think is most interesting about the market is not so much that a robot could eventually edit, because it already can. I don't doubt that for a second, but it's more about the market and the business model and how it's coming through brands now, and influencers, and YouTube channel being the number one watched thing. It has the most eyeballs. I perceive that as the threat and also
Yeah.
because there's no shortage of a craving for content. As someone who works on, what are you guys in, like 25, 30, 40 seasons? Nobody's tired of watching House Hunters International. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
people voraciously consume no matter what.
I did ask my friend Claude, like, what do you think about this? And that's pretty much the extent of, because we're friends now.
Yeah.
And I
agree.
also have a GPT that I made,
Mhm.
because you can give it samples, and so I'll have to make my, like, entertainment business, like, thoughtful person, GPT, and then I can, have that conversation. I don't know. My gut feeling is usually right though over technology, and yeah, it's like red blinking light. I the YouTube thing drives me crazy. I mean, my dad is 70 something and he watches YouTube more than, like, probably, I mean, and he's listening to robots talking to him. And I'm like, this is a robot, right? And my kids are on the other side of the spectrum, and they will pick a YouTube channel about Bluey sometimes over watching Bluey. And I'm like, and the content is so bad. And of course, I'm like, I have an idea for a kid's YouTube show. And I'm like, Lou, let's do the show. Let's do this. It'll be fun, like bonding. And she won't do it, and it's like,
Hmm.
my concern as a parent is, like, I've seen the impact of some of this stuff and how kids treat each other as they get a little from other parents I know with older kids and stuff. And um,
Hmm.
I worry about the empathy factor, and all that I can see with my own eyes, and I'm watching my own kids for that, to make sure we don't, you know, lose our connection with humanity. Um, and I know that sounds hyperbolic, but it to me, like, as I have my view as a parent, and what role this content plays, because
Mm.
it's so integrated into our lives, like the phone always on, watching, like Ricky, my son, will want to watch something on a phone instead of a screen. I mean, I'm like, let's watch it in 70 millimeter, like make it really big. I want to see it. And he's just like, ooh, the smaller, like, I want to watch it on your watch. I'm like, no, we're not, that's, what are you getting from
Brilliant.
that? Yeah. But I mean, I see my kids learn a lot from certain things. I'm not a, like, all screens are bad person. It's just another way to get information.
Mm.
It's really about, is it piquing their curiosity? Are they asking me questions afterward? And some of that content does do that. So that's okay. Um, yeah, some of it is incredibly dumb. Like, I can't believe how dumb it is, and it scares me that that's what people choose over something more thoughtful. Now, in terms of, like, our industry and our jobs, and even AI taking over as an editor or something, I can't say where we're going to be in 5, 10, or 20 years, but I know that right now and for the foreseeable future, even an AI editing a show, like, throw all your footage in and make a show, it would almost, for me, it would come back as like a assembly, but you
Mm.
still need somebody human to make it breathe. There's this book, Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know. I think it was Blink. I think it was the first one.
Mm.
The one where the first scene is like they're looking at this statue in a Roman museum, and it's perfect, and nobody can figure out if it's a fake or not, but they just, like, feel like it's a fake, but they cannot find anything to show that they can't prove it.
Mm.
And years and years and years, and I'm sorry, Malcolm Gladwell, if I'm butchering this story, but my remembrance of it here, it took them years to finally debunk the fact that this is real. It's not real. And the reason, in a nutshell, that they figured it out is because it was too perfect. There were no flaws. It was the exact grade of marble and the exact angle and the exact, and I think that's where, for people who have the ability to be fine-tuned enough where you can feel the difference between whether it's a voice or a production or whatever, the question is, are we losing that ability as we're being trained by the creation of even man-made content? But it's just so superficial and so about, it's like the fast, cheap, good. It's fast, it's cheap, but it's not giving you like the emotional connection that a real movie or even even a TV show. I mean, even our TV show, the best episodes are the ones that have these weird moments in them that are totally real. It's a subtext sometimes, like I can tell she feels weird about that. These are the moments. AI right now cannot recognize those moments. It can mimic them, but it can't recognize them. It doesn't know what they mean. So
That
I
circles
don't know.
me back to the thesis of the podcast, which is
Mhm,
behind all that work that we do.
mhm.
How do you create a Kardashian or an apprentice competitor? Imagine the footage, bring it in, synthesize it, and put it out in such a way that people feel it.
Yeah. Well, I know that you have to have a babysitter to do that. That's one thing I know. You can't
Yeah.
do that. To answer that question, it's like, yeah,
With them
I would.
clawing at you, you can't with their grub.
Yeah, I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, these are the things that I think about at 3 a.m.
Mm,
When I'm coming up with ideas, and then I wake up in the morning and think, let's do this, and then my day starts, and it's like, nope, no time to do that.
yeah,
Um, so I don't have an answer, but I'd have to think about it. It would be my answer. But see, that's
sure.
my flaw. If I was Claude, I would have an answer for you right now. Would not
And
be
you would be
possible.
friendly.
I'm not friendly. Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. No, no,
Yeah,
I
I was
totally
gonna.
get it. Go
a,
ahead.
a quick side note, just what you were talking about your own creative, I've always known you to be also kind of like, hey, I'm dabbling in this, and we got into that NFT thing a few years ago,
Yeah.
which I still, NFT is a dirty word, but there is still something interesting about it, like
Oh, yeah.
also as
I
a.
believe in the blockchain. I think there's
Yeah,
a use. It's just we haven't figured it out.
yeah, there's a lot going on, like, a lot of times we get depressed, like, oh god, like look what's happening to the world, which is totally true. But then I look at how much if you just take a bird's eye view, it's like there were wars that were fought for like 100 years. Like it did not
Mm,
end in your lifetime. And you
correct.
still didn't have a dramatically different outcome than where you were at the beginning.
Yeah.
So we do make a lot of changes. They happen culturally, they happen politically, they happen creatively. Like even just if you look at like Sergei Eisenstein to now, like
Mhm.
all those creative changes and like also what that how that affects the culture, because it
Mm,
does,
absolutely.
I always think of my job, even at House Hunters or anything else. I mean, there that's not a political show. I mean, it's overtly like do not bring politics into it, but like everything you put on a screen, you know, it is political in a way. Like what is normal? You're saying what is normal, right? So even just like being normal about something is, I guess you could say in a technical academic way, it is political act, right? And us as creators, we have almost more control to change things than a politician. I mean, because culture, people respond to culture. Even like the Rodney King incident or something, it is a cultural event that is televised that changes something, or George Floyd, or any of Tiananmen Square. It's a visual moment. So our role in this changing world, there's the industry side of it and the economic side, and then there's like the everything bleeds together. People are creating personal content on YouTube that's changing, like generationally changing like how we perceive the world. Like I'm looking at these kids with like zero empathy, and I'm like, great, they're gonna like be in charge at my nursing home. So what's gonna happen there?
Yeah.
They're gonna be the custodians of the world that I live in later in life and all that. So you have to set them up in a way, that doesn't create failure for all of us. And the humanity part is really the test right now. um
Mm.
I don't know, going off into a philosophical zone, but it's all tied together.
No, I think that's interesting what you said about how you whatever is on TV is what we're presenting as quote unquote normal, and everybody's normal is different. And house hunters, I mean, you could argue it's people who don't mind uprooting themselves and going on an adventure. That's not a very I don't want to say conservative mindset, but it's definitely not for those who are afraid of leaving their block because of fill in the blank conspiracy, or they don't know anything else, or they just don't have the seasoning. And so
Yeah.
it's totally a white bread show, if you ask me, just taking you on these adventures. But I could see even that being.
Yeah. And there's lots of reasons why people do that. I mean, sometimes it's just work, and sometimes it's, we have people who have life-changing things that happen. A lot of times it might be loss or tragedy,
Mhm.
and people just come to this realization of like, hey, life is short. I was reading yesterday, there's like a Michelle Obama podcast or something, and she was talking about her mom at the end of her life, like the 4 words that like changed everything, which was, well, that went fast. And it really resonated with me because I'm also in this transition of like sandwich generation, like taking care of my parents and taking care of my kids and everything. And just being like, wait, I'm the elder now? Like, what is that about? When did I stop being like calling my mom and being like, Mom, what do I do?
Reality editing, being a producer,
Mm,
editor, or predator on House Hunters is a very specific surgical skill. Um, that, how do you repurpose that? Can you speak to like
yeah.
that at all?
Well, the best way, to make something good at House Hunters or anywhere is to like pay attention to the details. I remember you know Martina Radwan, right?
Hmm.
It's a cinematographer. Um, we work together a lot, and she's done a lot of my movies, and we've also worked together. So she'd be like the senior camera person on a show, and
Hmm.
she would yell at me and say, you know, stop breakdancing. That was her favorite. But also she would say, you have to listen as a camera person, right? And camera is like the first phase of writing, or writing is the first phase of writing if it's scripted. But
Sure.
camera is a phase of creation, and editing is like the last phase of writing. And it's the same thing. Going back to what Martina said, you have to listen. And so our shows that are good are crafted by the editors that are really paying attention, the details. That's what makes them different. That's what brings out the humanity. When you're on a very quick schedule, quick turnaround, ever decreasing budgets, like, which is just a universal kind of thing. um it becomes easy to just formulaically put it together. But and a big part of what I do is like going in, and I just say to everybody, we got to find the one unique thing about this show. And that's the thing we build around, even if
Mm.
it seems silly. I have noticed in my years, including doing my own short films and everything, the thing that's the most interesting thing, the weirdest thing or whatever, it's the most polarizing. It's the thing that everybody in the screening loves and they talk about on Twitter, but it's also the first thing that everybody wants to cut. So you have
Mm.
to sort of like balance, especially in this universe where everything is go, 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 and the formulaic feels right because you've hit the button, but it's really not enough. And that's going to be the thing that distinguishes from the repetition of the YouTube content, which I think is a phase we're in, but like I don't know if it's doesn't feel like a permanent state. It will always have a role.
Yeah.
But when you get to like understand like the reason why people watch some of these shows, including reality shows, like you talk about the carnival barkers, it's the carnival. It's because you have these moments of relatability, or even if it's not something you emotionally relate to, although we do want to usually we touch on that if we can. It's like slipping on the banana peel. But like you see somebody else and you can relate to like not wanting to be the person that slips on the banana peel, or like that kind of thing. um Sometimes you have to find the banana peel, you know what I mean. uh,
Mm.
Sometimes you have to make the banana peel, unfortunately. But and that's, I think that's the difference in when you're looking for what's the secret sauce. It's the time. It's the thing that people want to take away the first. Do it faster, make it more formulaic, but that's not the secret to like long-term success. So for us, for our show, it feels formulaic, but every time we bring in a new editor that hasn't done the show, the learning curve is so steep. Including when I did my first show, I literally had a show next to me, and I was like trying to copy it. You know, it's like Mark Twain with the riverboat. You know, like he was so obsessed with the Mississippi, and it was this like mysterious thing. And then he became a steamboat captain, and he knew like where every underwater rock was, and then it becomes like formulaic and boring. And then you have to find a way to know the river, but also be amazed by it, right? And so that's where, at this level, we got to know the show, but also find a way to be surprised by it, even as creators. So you have to look for those moments, you have to be open to them, and you have to take a chance to follow it, even including in the field. Sometimes you have to take the chance, like follow the crazy thing. It can fail. That's the problem. We don't have a lot of room for failure right now in this economy. So, you know, I don't know. And AI doesn't really like to fail either. So that's where it loses the innovative edge. Um, it actually takes a certain kind of person to be willing to fail. And we have less of those people around because it's not what our culture wants us to do. Even though they say they want that in like books and stuff and in TED Talks, nobody actually wants to take the risk of failing to like elevate. And so these are all things that factor into like making the next great thing. I don't know. It's going to be something weird that we don't see coming.
We don't read books anymore. Um, but
I have 4 books that I'm reading right now that I'm 30 pages into on all of them.
I
Yeah.
know. I've started to listen to nonfiction because it's the only way I
Mm.
can consume it without my brain going in 1,000 different directions at once while reading.
Mhm.
Great. Like, I think that you totally wrapped it up really well because it's that human touch, and it's like, we got a
Mhm.
ways to go.
Mhm.
Like, they don't understand,
Mhm.
it doesn't understand the emotion and stuff. So I think
Well,
you
I
make a
think
good.
yeah, it doesn't understand the emotion. I think right now it's really highlighting like the mediocrity because
Mm,
people who don't want to do the work are using it to do the work. And you're like, oh my God, like
mm,
but then on the flip side of that, sometimes that's enough for people because as an audience, our audience isn't always looking for like the deeper connection. I mean, until they are, you know, when they see it, they like it. But partly because of our lifestyles being so fast, like sometimes you just want the like mindless filler content. So it's all so holistic. Like we've got
mm.
the kind of culture we live in now where we're busy every second of the day. We in the demands, like, you know, in America especially, it's like don't even take a minute to have lunch. And then you've got political situation where if you made a basic observation, it's like nothing matters, you know, shame is dead. And we spend our lives like living by the rules only to find out that they don't matter at all. And like cartoonishly bad people doing cartoonishly bad things are fine because somebody on a YouTube video is like, no, that's fine. And you're just like, oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, all the rules that I thought made sense, they don't make sense all the time. I'm not going to say they never kick in, like there's got to be a low, but the impact of that and the helplessness and the powerlessness we feel because like our whole larger safety net of feeling safe is changing. You know, I like how does that impact us? I think we're still figuring that out. It's not about TV per se, but it is affecting our audience and what they will accept and what they want and how they want to escape and when they want to buckle down and feel something. You know, I don't have the answer, but I can see the problem. You know.
That's interesting that you brought it around to that. I did want to link ego and just so how easy it
Mm,
is to shatter one's comfort zone and ego and sense of self with failure. I want to, because
mhm, mhm,
I feel like
mhm.
the world has been built up to support these folks who cannot admit or cope
Mhm.
with dropping the ball or and everything is the blame game because it
Yeah.
cannot be like you and I are the type of people who'd be like, my bad, I see the problem, I'm hereby going to fix it moving forward.
Mhm,
And that's the normal way to do it. That's how Thomas Edison did it. He was all about failure,
mhm,
right? And we just sort of quit accepting that for I can pontificate for hours. The reasons
It begins and ends on failure. Failure isn't part of the process. You know, it's
Yeah.
like in reality, failure is like a thing that you jump on to bounce higher.
Yes.
But some people just can't see it that way.
Well, thank you so much for doing the show. I appreciate your
Yeah, of
insight.
course.
I really do. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
And that, my friends, is Jen Heck. Her story really puts into perspective what many creatives face, especially when parenting enters the picture. Beyond the industry talk, what truly resonated with me was her profound take on the human condition. I'd like to thank Jen for showing up and talking to me about this stuff. You can find her work at steamboatpictures.com, STAMBOAT pictures.com. Music in this episode is provided by DJ Williams, whose work you can find on YouTube at DJW Music, also linked in the show notes. Post-production services are provided by Audio Photosynthesis. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Kizzle-Kit. To shop for your very own lifestyle accessories, go to www.kizzlekit.com. That's KIZZLEKIT.com. Next week on Behind the Carnival Barkers, I met with Ilya, the editor, who's trying to be open-minded about what's in store for editors. Please follow us on social media for the schedule, upcoming guests, and other programming notes and updates. Sign up for our newsletter at carnivalbarkers.substack.com. And please, please, please hit that like button if you enjoyed the conversation.